Hello, I'm Ruth Etches, nutritionist, functional medicine practitioner and specialist in brain health and mental well-being. Now, it's no secret that we find ourselves in the midst of a mental health crisis. The figures really do make for bleak reading when we think that suicide was the leading cause of death for males and females between 5 to 34 in 2019. 1 in 5 people will have suicidal thoughts in their lifetime, with 1 in 15 attempting suicide. Over 8 million people in the UK are currently experiencing anxiety. 1 in 6 are depressed. And 1 in 6 children aged 5 to 16 were identified as having a probable mental health problem in July 2021, a huge increase from 2017 when it was 1 in 9. In 2018 to 19, 24% of 17-year-olds reported having self-harmed in the previous year, and 7% reported having self-harmed with suicidal intent at some point in their lives. And what's more, 83% of children with mental health problems agreed that the coronavirus pandemic had made their mental health much worse. Now, on a positive note, we are undoubtedly also much more open about mental health struggles these days, with much less stigma, more understanding about different mental health conditions. But it does seem that we still have a significant way to go, and that removing that stigma only really solves a small part of the problem. We really need to better understand what's driving this crisis, especially in our young people. So what could be driving this modern day epidemic? And is there anything we can do about it from a functional medicine, diet, nutrition, lifestyle perspective? Well, in spite of what conventional medicine might have us believe, the mind and the body are intrinsically connected, and physical insults on the body will have a very powerful impact on the brain, on mental health, on neurotransmitter balance, on neuroinflammation in the brain. We know really that mental health conditions are fundamentally brain health conditions too, and we need to look at identifying and correcting the physiological mechanisms, at least as much as we need to be speaking up, listening and supporting via mental health support. This is especially important because there is little doubt that in our crazy 21st century lives, we are living completely out of alignment with our evolutionary biology. The bodies that we inhabit simply have not evolved quickly enough to keep up with the speed of change in our lives, in our societies, families, technology, and in our food chain. And we then wonder why we and our young people are struggling. So let's think about this for a minute and some of the ways that this might be affecting our physical and our mental health, how we are genetically designed to be living versus the reality. So first of all, we evolved to live in tribes, supportive groups, sharing responsibilities, families, chores, life's ups and downs, life stages, not to be living alone or in small family units, which are sometimes characterised by fractured relationships themselves. Loneliness, lack of community, even lack of in-person contact is a huge factor in today's society, where WhatsApp is king and hanging out with friends in the street has become playing together online or communicating via social media, fraught with difficulties for our young people especially. Secondly, we evolved to walk steadily for many miles a day, to move our bodies in many ways, to squat, kneel, sleep on the floor, walk barefoot, lift heavy things. Instead, we sit on chairs in centrally heated or air-conditioned environments. We have comfortable transport options and many conveniences that make life easier for us and make it less likely that we'll move our body in the way we were designed to. Number 3, we evolved to live largely in harmony with nature, responding to the rhythm of the seasons, living outdoors a lot of the time. But many of us are now oblivious to nature and the seasons, and nature deficit is common. Living in cities, working in offices, living mostly indoors is commonplace, sometimes barely even seeing daylight for half the year. Number 4, we evolved to eat real food grown in the earth or fed on the earth, nutrient-dense foods replete with the balance of nutrients to keep a human healthy or grow a human. And in contrast, our 21st century diet really comprises a huge amount of ultra-processed food. On average, 65% of our diet is ultra-processed, and that's even more when it comes to our children's diet. Our soil is depleted of minerals, mass agriculture, the use of antibiotics, inappropriate feed for our animals, pesticides and insecticides on our crops, all leading to worrying health implications of even our natural food. Number 5, we evolved to sleep when it gets dark, wake when the sun rises, and respond to our body's natural circadian rhythm. Perhaps sitting around a campfire in the evening, in a circle, telling stories, singing songs, sharing thoughts from the day. And instead we now sit surrounded by electric lights, TV screen blinking, and worse, the artificial light created by our electronic screens. We don't even need to go back to Paleolithic times to remember times when we would sleep more, when we would perhaps get 8 or 9 hours sleep per night instead of today's typical 6 hours if you're lucky. Number 6, we evolved to breathe clean air, not air contaminated by pollution, chemicals, plastics. And while we're thinking about contaminants and toxins, let's not forget the literally thousands of new chemicals we are exposed to today in our cleaning products, our self-care products, our makeup, toiletries, fire retardants, cookware that would not even have been in existence 100 years ago, let alone thousands of years ago. And what's that doing to our detox pathways? Number 7, we evolved to have acute stress, moments when the body's fight or flight mechanism would kick in, be switched on and ready to fight or run away from a predator. And this would pass and peace would be restored. But in contrast, most of us these days live with chronic stress on a daily basis. Financial worries, work worries, caring for family, health worries, and all of the tiny doses of micro-stress that happen over the course of an average day. And when we think about how far we've moved away from our evolutionary heritage, it's not difficult to see where things have gone wrong with our mental health. And when we layer on top of that the extraordinary impact of the worldwide pandemic 2020 to 2021 and the lockdowns, and in particular the impact this had on our young people, then we can see the crisis evolving before our eyes. So what can we do to even begin to tackle this crisis? Well, these are my thoughts. And whilst talking therapies led by the under-resourced child and mental health support team are part of the solution, there are bigger mechanisms at play. And until we recognise the foundations necessary for brain health, we're simply mopping up the floor with the tap still full on. So what are these foundations? Well, let's start with a nutrient-dense, brain-healthy, real food, whole food diet full of quality protein, healthy fats and fibre, ditching the ultra-processed foods, cooking real food that your great-grandmother would recognise as food. Number 2, moving our body, not just an hour in the gym a day, but taking movement breaks throughout the day to move in natural ways, adding in more non-exercise activity. Optimising sleep, rediscovering our circadian rhythm and respecting it with consistent sleep and wake times. Sleep quality with nighttime routines which allow for a wind down away from blue light and screens, and allowing for enough of a sleep window to get the quantity of sleep required to restore our brains and mental function. Stress reduction techniques to move us out of fight or flight and into rest, digest and repair. We can't change our crazy 21st century world, but we can learn techniques to help us to respond to it with greater resilience and calm, and to avoid the vicious cycle of upregulated stress hormones and the cascade this has on the rest of the nervous system. Immersion in nature, whenever or wherever you can, be that a morning walk, be it lunch in the park, a cold water swim, or even sitting in the garden listening to the birdsong. Studies show time and time again the profound impact of green and blue spaces for nature medicine on our mental health. building a community. We are social beings designed to be with other beings, be that where we live or via a hobby or an interest. So these are my fundamental, non-negotiable foundations for my brain health and mental health, and for that of my clients. As ever, I'm really keen to hear your thoughts, so do leave me a comment below. And if you'd like to hear more, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel for some more integrative and holistic videos about brain and mental health.